Hello. So I must start this off with an apology. I know it's been a good couple of weeks since I've actually done one of my vlogs. Um, there are a couple of reasons for that. I mean, one, there's been the incredible Black Lives Matter movement, and I felt like there were more voices that were more important to hear than my own, talking about just what I've been up to in lockdown and things like that. So I really felt like it was time to take a bit of a step back and just let those voices be heard. And I would still encourage you to listen and to educate and do what I've been doing, taking some time just to learn a bit more about things like the privilege that white people so obviously have, and don't get into an argument with me on that one, because it is there. It is clearly there with some of the examples that we've seen on social media over the last few weeks. The other one has been quite a personal reason, which I'm not going to go into on this vlog because I don't want to. Quite frankly, the people that need to know, who might be watching this, already know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to go into it. Instead, I'm going to talk to you about a few of the things. It's a bit of a lockdown life update. When all this started, I was telling you about some of the games that I was playing. I was telling you about some of the books that I was reading, some of the things that I was watching on TV. Well, lockdown's been going on for quite some time now. We in the UK were locked down on the 23rd of March. At the time of recording, it's the 19th of June, so we've been locked down for quite some time. And quite frankly, I have binge-watched things, I have finished things, I've read things, so I have had to go out and find, well, not go out, maybe order in. See what I said? I've had to order in or find some new things to watch, to play, to read. So that's what I was going to talk about. It's kind of a bit of an update on some of the new things. Some are not that new. Some are newish. But they're all new to me. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So in terms of TV shows, me and my husband have carried on watching Supernatural. We started watching it on Christmas Day together. Now, I've seen everything right up to where broadcasting ended in America back in March, when they were told that they had to stop filming, so they couldn't film the last couple of episodes. But I got the box set for Christmas, and my husband had never seen any of it, so we've been watching that together ever since Christmas. But that's not exactly new, even to me. So new shows, things that I had to try and find to watch. One of the things I found on Amazon and Netflix was Lucifer, and I'd heard a bit about it. Tom Ellis is a great Welsh actor, and being quarter Welsh myself, I do tend to follow the Welsh actors. He was absolutely excellent in the absolutely brilliant British comedy Miranda. I love that show so much. He played Gary in the show Miranda, the love interest of Miranda. And he's a superb actor, absolutely fantastic. And I thought, well, I already like him as an actor. I already know he's good, so let's watch Lucifer. And I have to say, it was really, really good. I've watched all of the series that have been filmed and broadcast so far. There were some moments where I felt a little bit frustrated with the way some of the characters were going, but I liked how they turned that around. Be interesting to see where they're at now with the main character knowing who Lucifer is, with Chloe knowing who Lucifer is, how they're going to approach that going forward, what kind of change that's actually going to have on their relationship, working and otherwise. It was quite interesting, all the while she didn't know who he was and thought he was just using metaphors for everything. But it was quite a good, fun show. They shared some of the, directors and what have you with Supernatural. It's filmed in the same place as Supernatural, so it had some of those sorts of feels to it. It was easy to get into. If you're a Supernatural fan, Lucifer was quite easy to get into, I felt. It was very different, don't get me wrong, it stands alone really, really well, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable thing, and I'm glad that Netflix have picked it up and that there is going to be another series of it, because I think it does deserve it. But how much further you can really go with it now, I'm not sure, but it will be interesting to find out. So, looking forward to that. The other show that I've been watching very recently, literally this week, picked up on Netflix is The Witcher. And lots of people have been talking about The Witcher for quite some time, and I felt like maybe it was my turn to give it a watch, as I'm looking for things to watch. And it's really quite interesting. It's got a bit of a Game of Thronesy type feel to it, but I have to say I think everyone in it has been doing a really good job. I think the production values are really high. It's a really interesting story. I've got to say I figured out one of the main twists quite early on, which was interesting because some of the comments on IMDb, people were saying I don't know who anyone is or how any of their characters relate, but I figured it out from pretty much episode 1 what the relationship between a couple of the characters were, and I'm not going to say anything in case you want to watch it and you haven't, you've been thinking about it. So I don't know why people struggled with that, because to me it was pretty obvious. Maybe it's my Game of Thrones twist brain kicked into gear or something, but anyway, yeah. I've been watching The Witcher and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm about halfway through the first series at the moment. As I say, I only discovered it this week. The joys of Netflix, meaning that you can binge watch everything. So I would recommend that if you're looking for something to watch that you haven't watched just yet. In terms of books, I'm still working my way through the Murakami novels, but I also obtained, through some online shopping, a few more books that I can plough through. I've already finished World War Z by Max Brooks. Max Brooks being the son of the famed writer and director Mel Brooks, who I'm a huge fan of his films. World War Z, totally different to anything like that though, of course, which is only right and proper. You may remember this was made into a film a few years back. Now actually, I'm going to be honest here, I've not seen the film. The book was actually recommended to me by somebody who I work with, so I thought, well, now's as good a time as any, especially with the theme of the book. The theme of the book being that there's a deadly plague that starts in China and spreads across the world, and what it does is when people die, it reanimates their corpses, they come back as zombies. So the survivors are trying to fight the zombies, and it's a war against them. And even by the time the end of the book, so to speak, it's not over. There are still reanimated corpses that they're having to deal with. The idea being that it's first-hand accounts from witnesses, from survivors, from people that were involved in it at various different levels. So some of them are supposed to be Chinese doctors, some of them are supposed to be members of the American Army. You've got people who started off as just civilians but then took on these various leadership roles as they had to start changing the way that they lived life. And it's a very interesting, very well put together book. Now, I'm a huge fan of the book Dracula, and that's a similar sort of thing. It's made up of journal entries, of newspaper clippings, things like that, where the characters interview each other and then it's all transcribed. And it really has that sort of feel to it, so it tells the story quite clearly of this zombie war. But it's not written as a narrative from one person's perspective, necessarily. The narrator, so to speak, is the person that's gone out and supposedly carried out these interviews with the survivors. It's a really interesting book, especially in terms of what's been going on. You can read so many patterns that have actually happened. The attitudes of politicians, for example, as well, are very similar to what's actually happened. Now, this is a book that was written, way, way before any of this happened. But it's very clear that Max Brooks has done his pandemic homework, shall we say, and has looked into how governments might respond, what kind of pattern viruses take as they spread around the world. It's a very, very interesting book and very well worth a read if you can get your hands on a copy. It wasn't easy. It did take me a couple of months. I did start looking at the beginning of lockdown. It took me a couple of months to get hold of an available copy. And remember as well, I want to throw this out here because there's been a whole campaign on this recently. Don't just look in the obvious online places like Amazon. There are many, many other places that are selling books for good price. Good price is on the internet, and there are some independent bookstores that are doing that. There are websites such as Hive where you can get books from independent booksellers. So look around, shop around. There are other options out there as well. Next up, I've got some books that I haven't yet started, which are right on my reading list for the next book that I'm going to read. The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins is one that I've been meaning to read for a while. Moby Dick is another one, which I feel like I should read. It's one of my dad's favourite books. I know my dad has read this book before, and I would like to give that a go. And also the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft, because he specialised in short stories and things like that, so it's a hefty book, but there's a lot in there. And I'm really looking forward to giving that a read. And my dad was quite interested by that one as well. He said, what made you want to read that one? Because he read all those works when he was sort of in his teens and 20s. And I said, it's one of those things I've been meaning to read for quite some time. We are the generation who grew up with things like Call of Cthulhu being put into video games and being referenced on TV. Cthulhu was quite a big thing on the internet, and not that long ago. It was one of those things that kind of exploded. So it's kind of made me want to read the origins of these things, these memes, these video games, these TV shows, where all these ideas come from, just to give a bit of a reference point. And also, there's a whole bit in TV shows like Supernatural where H.P. Lovecraft gets involved in opening a portal or a gate to another dimension. And it's kind of having that background knowledge of H.P. Lovecraft and his writing style and who he was. So I'm really looking forward to reading these stories. In terms of games, carrying on with Farm Together, carrying on with World of Warcraft, carrying on with... we've actually put Minecraft on the back burner for a little bit, and that's because we've got back into playing... This is me, my husband, and our friend have got back into playing 7 Days to Die. This is a game that we've been playing on and off for, I don't know, maybe 3 years now, maybe more. There was a time when we were only playing this game, so we got pretty hot on it. Excellent at building bases, weaponsmithing, you name it, we could do it. We all had our own roles, so like I would create all of the ammo, and I was the weapons specialist, so I would be able to upgrade all our weapons. My husband was very good at doing things like the armour, and Mike, our friend, was very good at specialising in a whole range of things, but in particular the base building and protection of the base and all that sort of thing was very much his thing. And we would sort of work out between us who was going to be a shotgun specialist, who was going to be a rifle specialist, who was going to be like lucky looter, who would be able to loot the most things out of the crates that get dropped every few days from the airdrops. And then it all went and changed dramatically. We are now on Alpha 18.4, and I have got to say, one really good positive thing, the gameplay is so smooth. It is absolutely a joy to play now. It's not juddery, you don't get this thing where the scenery doesn't load as you're going around. It is very clean. And also, we would have so many problems. We have our own server, but we'd have so many problems with the way the server behaved and get randomly booted, or you'd end up with like your motorbike would just, for some reason, your mini bike would just end up inside a cliff or something. So annoying. And like for no reason, it would just like teleport itself inside a cliff. Like, how did you even get in there? And you'd have to dig your bike out. It was stupid. So I've got to say, things like that, that's really cleaned up. That's really, really nice. I like the other like added elements, like you kind of build up to mini bikes and eventually this like 4x4 all-terrain vehicle type thing. At the moment we have got mountain bikes, so it does use some of your own character's stamina and energy in order to pedal these bikes, but it's better than trying to run everywhere. And it's this gradual improvement in how you can transport yourself about the map. And that, of course, opens up larger areas to you, because now that we've got these bikes, it's really easy to get to the nearest trader, whereas it was taking us about half a day just to run from our base to the trader. Now it takes us a couple of minutes to cycle there. The other element I really, really like as well is the trader will give you quests to do. So it'll be things like find the buried treasure, find this cache of something in this house or this shop, clear this area of zombies, that sort of thing. Really thoroughly enjoyable to be able to do these quests, and then you earn money and you can get perks and you can upgrade your weapons that way. And it's really handy that he's got a vending machine that resets sort of every few minutes, because you can take all of the cash that you've earned and spend it in the vending machine. that allows you to get tinned food, and tinned food is essential in the game now. It used to be that you would find them on zombies or hidden in cupboards. Zombies drop a hell of a lot less loot now. It's very rare that you'll get a loot bag off of a zombie. And when you do, you never know what you're going to get. It's very, very limited. You can find tins from raiding places, but it's better if you're looking in a place where the trader has sent you for a quest. So send you to a diner, for example. You're going to find a lot more food because it's something about the game mechanics with the quests. It just stocks the place right up. You need the tin food because there's an element in it now of food poisoning, and if you eat even just raw fruits or vegetables, you've got something like a 4% chance of getting food poisoning, and if you do that, your hunger and stamina just drops like that. So then you need to go and eat some tinned food. So it's always handy to have a cache of tinned food available, even if you want to try and risk eating meat or fruit or vegetables or whatever. That's absolutely fine because that stuff does keep you topped up. But the moment you get food poisoning, you've got to have a can of something on you in order to survive, basically, because it just makes you a sitting duck, a target. I don't mind that element so much. It is quite easy if you're doing trader quests to get that food. So my advice would be build a base that's not a million miles away from a trader. Horde night, though, is an absolute disaster. I died once on the first Horde night in our first base because they broke in from somewhere we didn't think they could break into. And they just... I was in the process of killing a zombie, and one snuck up behind me and just round the back of the head, and that was it. I was gone. The second Horde night, night 14, we'd already built another base, and we thought, oh yeah, okay, this is working quite well. We've put loads of spikes down. We've got this spike pit for them to fall into. It's fine. But they wouldn't stop coming. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And then when morning hit, they didn't really stop being rabid, and we ended up having to lead them away from the base and basically lining them up with turret guns and just trying to pull them one or two at a time so that we could just kill them off. And we realised that was not going to work. We're going to keep that base as our sort of main day-to-day base because it's pretty handy base to have. But we're going to, for Horde night, get inside a base that basically funnels them. So it's much easier to kill them off, and they won't be able to get to us, and we should hopefully be able to survive night 21. We hope. We're a bit nervous about this. This might be an unmitigated disaster, but anyway, we'll see. So that's pretty much been it. I mean, lockdown is starting to be eased in the UK, but that doesn't mean that the virus is gone. You've got to still do what you feel you are comfortable with doing. I mean, for me, where I live, the shop's opening, it's a bit of a trek to the centre of Southampton, where I live, and it's still about a mile and a half to the centre of Eastleigh out the other side. So, for me, non-essential shops opening hasn't really changed. I'd have to go on a special trip in the car to either of these places, and I don't really want to do that. To be honest, I'm not a big shopper anyway. I don't even like doing my food shop every week. That's under normal circumstances, and yet I do it. So non-essential shops opening hasn't been a huge change for me personally, just because of the way I lead my life. But things are gradually starting to unlock. There's a situation at the moment where you can choose a bubble. You can choose, if you're a single person, you can choose another household to kind of pair up with. So that's good for people like my brother who live alone, but not so good for me because I still have to go and sit in their back garden. The rules do state that I can go and sit a couple of metres away from them in their garden. So that's been a bit of a relief, and I've been doing that. And I have been for a physically distanced walk with a friend out in a park, because you just need to see somebody. This, through a camera, through a screen, is fine, but only for so long. And even if I have to stay 2 metres away from somebody, I will stay 2 metres away from somebody. So be it. So anyway, like I say, apologies again for the kind of delay in this, but I feel like there's been more important things going on in the world, both publicly and personally. And just stay safe. look out for each other. Perhaps leave in the comments below some of the things that you've been doing during lockdown, some of the games you've been playing, books you've been reading, if you've picked up a new hobby, for example. I haven't, because I haven't. And if you haven't, that's fine as well, by the way. I mean, no, there's no hard and fast rule on how to do this. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Bye bye.